My dear friends, a man once said, "My life didn't change when I worked harder. It changed when I stopped carrying unnecessary weight." Think about that. Not every burden in your life looks like failure. Some of them look like people. They smile at you, they talk to you, they sit close to you, but slowly, quietly, they drain your energy, your focus, and your belief in yourself. Here is a hard truth. Most people learn too late. You don't lose your future because of enemies. You lose it because of the wrong company. Today, I want to talk about 3 people you must cut out of your life. Not out of anger, but out of self-respect. First is the person who shrinks your dreams. You share a bold idea, a vision that makes your heart race, and their eyes flicker with a subtle unease. They don't yell or argue, they don't need to. They simply tilt their head, frown slightly, and ask, "Are you sure this is realistic?" And in that small, quiet question, the seed of doubt begins to take root inside you. It's not forceful, but it's persistent. Over time, those tiny moments stack like pebbles in a jar until the weight of someone else's hesitation feels heavier than your own ambition. You start to question yourself, not because your dream is impossible, but because someone else cannot imagine it possible. Their presence is like standing in a room full of shadows, where the walls slowly close in. At first, it feels like gentle caution, even love. They warn you about failure, about disappointment, about the practical path. But soon, the caution seeps into your own mind. You find yourself replaying their words, turning over their doubts late at night, whispering them to your own heart as if they were truths carved in stone. You forget that their fear is theirs, not yours. And in that forgetting, your own courage becomes fragile, a flickering flame threatened by every passing gust. They are not openly cruel, but their subtlety is more dangerous than blunt rejection. They wrap hesitation in smiles, advice in concern, and criticism in stories of what happened to someone like us. Their language is soft, but their effect is sharp. Every cautionary tale they tell about someone else's failed attempt becomes a ghost hovering over your choices. You begin to measure your potential against their limitations, as if their comfort zone should define yours. And in those moments, ambition feels selfish, risk feels reckless, and the spark in your chest begins to dim. Not because your dream is small, but because they refuse to see it as possible. You start to notice the patterns in quiet moments, how their conversations always circle back to what cannot be done. Even when you achieve small victories, they minimize them, saying, "That's good for now, but remember, life is hard." The joy of progress is diluted. The fire of excitement is cooled. It's not just words, it's a subtle erosion of faith, like water dripping on stone, slow enough that you barely notice, persistent enough that it reshapes the rock of your conviction over time. You begin to doubt your own ability to dream expansively because someone else has built invisible fences around the limits of possibility. They are not aware of the damage, or perhaps they are, and they enjoy the comfort of control. Their world is orderly, predictable, safe. When you speak of ambition, they feel exposed. Your courage reflects their own quiet fears, and instead of facing those fears, they project them onto you. You start to realize that their advice is a mirror, not of reality, but of their inability to see beyond themselves. Every gentle warning is a reflection of their smallness, not your limits. And still, it is easy to internalize. You absorb it like sunlight, assuming the warmth is nourishing, when really it has grown faint, dimmed, and laced with shadows. The strange cruelty of this kind of influence is that it feels protective at first. You think they are guiding you. You believe they are shielding you from heartbreak, from failure, from disappointment. But slowly, the shield becomes a cage. You notice that your conversations with them are like walking through fog. Clarity disappears. Every step forward feels heavier, because every step is measured against their invisible scale of safety. You begin to bend your dreams, trimming edges, softening corners, lowering expectations, convincing yourself that small is safe, small is responsible, small is kind. And yet, deep down, small feels like dying. And what they don't understand is that dreams are not fragile objects. They are living things. They grow, stretch, and sometimes roar. They cannot thrive under caution that smells like fear. Every word that doubts, every glance that questions, every subtle warning chips at the wings of possibility. And still, you are here, listening, learning, growing. You can feel the tension between what you want and what they can accept. That tension is sacred. It is the friction that tempers courage into strength. And if you lean into it, if you honor the voice inside you instead of the voice echoing from their limitations, you begin to remember that no one else owns the map of your potential. Second is the person who only shows up when they need you. At first, their presence feels comforting, like a familiar path through a forest you know by heart. They arrive when storms hit, when their life feels heavy, when everything else has failed. You open your arms and your heart because it seems natural to support someone in need. You listen to their worries, absorb their tension, and offer advice, time, energy, sometimes even your own peace. And at first, it feels like friendship. It feels like loyalty. It feels like love. But the pattern begins quietly, almost invisibly, until you realize their connection exists only as long as they have something to take. You start to notice the absence of balance, like a scale where one side is always tipped. They call you for comfort but not for celebration. They rely on you to carry their weight but never step in when you stumble. Your victories are background noise. Your struggles are their stage. You begin to feel invisible in your own life. And yet, you justify it, telling yourself, this is what caring people do. You believe that your time and energy are meant to be spent filling others' cups, not noticing that the cup they hand you is empty, chipped and leaking. Their presence is like a tide that comes in only at high water. They appear when they need rescue and recede when their own path is clear. They are selective in their closeness, and it is calculated in a way that feels unconscious at first. You find yourself wondering why you never see them when life is calm, when you need support or affirmation, when you are seeking guidance or simply companionship. The answer is painful in its simplicity. Their attachment is transactional. You are valued not for who you are, but for what you provide. You begin to question your own worth because giving has always been your language of love. And suddenly, generosity feels like vulnerability exposed. You think, am I too much? Am I not enough? But the truth is you are neither too much nor too little. You are simply the wrong reservoir for someone who is incapable of reciprocity. Your energy is meant to circulate freely, not be siphoned constantly into a one-way channel that drains instead of nourishes. Every moment you invest without return chips away at your sense of self, until exhaustion feels normal and resentment feels deserved. You start noticing the subtle excuses, the delayed responses, the lack of presence in moments that matter. They are there when it's convenient, silent when it's significant, and the strangest part is how easy it is to forgive them, because their absence is wrapped in reasons that sound legitimate. Life is busy, stress is heavy, circumstances are complex, and yet you know deep down that true loyalty is not absent when things are hard. True loyalty shows up when balance is demanded, when trust is tested, when mutual care is required. Every interaction with them begins to feel like a transaction, disguised as intimacy. You give freely, but the connection is always conditional, always dependent on their need. It is exhausting because you instinctively hope it will change, that their presence will eventually reflect your investment. But the cycle repeats, subtly reinforcing a sense that your worth is tied to what you provide, rather than who you are. You start to understand that constant giving to someone who never gives back is not generosity. It is surrender, and surrender without reciprocity slowly erodes the foundation of self-respect. And yet, in the midst of this, there is clarity waiting to be embraced. You begin to see the invisible equation. Relationships are not meant to be lifeboats you endlessly paddle for someone else's survival. They are meant to be spaces where energy flows both ways, where presence is mutual, where connection enriches both hearts. Recognizing this truth does not make you cold or unkind, it awakens you. It reminds you that your time, your energy, your care are sacred. You begin to feel the weight lift even before any confrontation or removal happens, because understanding the nature of this imbalance is the first step toward reclaiming the life and the peace that has always been yours. Third is the person who normalizes mediocrity. They do not challenge you with words that sting or goals that scare. Instead, they offer comfort disguised as counsel, a gentle hand that keeps you anchored in familiar waters. When you speak about ambition, they smile and nod, but their eyes quietly measure your reach against a horizon they have long stopped pursuing. They talk about contentment in tones that sound like wisdom, but underneath lies a subtle pressure, the expectation that you too should settle. You start to feel the gravity of their acceptance, as if ordinary is the only safe place for hearts like yours. At first, their influence seems harmless, even nurturing. They remind you that struggle is optional, that effort beyond necessity is excessive, that pushing further is unnecessary. You nod along, lulled by the calm they exude, and you begin to lower the volume of our own hunger. What felt urgent in your chest, your drive, your vision, your restlessness, now seems impulsive or risky. Their comfort becomes a mirror, reflecting the life they are willing to live. And suddenly the questions in your mind are not about what you could become, but what is practical to want. The danger lies in the invisible chains they weave. Every story they tell about how life is good enough wraps around your mind like vines around a young tree. Slowly, your limbs of ambition bend, your roots of purpose twist, until the natural stretch of your growth is constrained. You start to shrink your expectations to fit their worldview, convincing yourself that the sky you once saw is too high, too wide, too unattainable. And the most cruel part is how soft it feels. You believe that staying small is safe, that lowering the bar is sensible, that quieting your dreams is reasonable. They make stillness seductive. You feel the weight of their calm, and in contrast, your energy feels like an untamed storm. You are restless, ambitious, hungry for more, but their presence teaches you that the storm is dangerous, that peace is better, that motion is overrated. They talk about what is stable, what is predictable, what is enough, and begin to mistake their fear for maturity, their avoidance for prudence. You start to ration your own fire, dimming the glow of possibility so that it no longer alarms the comfortable lives around you. Every conversation with them subtly reshapes your standards. Where once you would have chased knowledge, mastery, connection, or risk, you now consider compromise first. Their words create invisible fences around your potential, fences you do not immediately see, but bump into with every ambitious step. You start to measure success by survival instead of growth, by contentment instead of expansion, by convenience instead of courage. And as your dreams shrink quietly in the corners of your mind, you feel a strange shame, as if longing for more is selfish or dangerous. You notice the moments when they express admiration for your effort, but it is hollow, never fully aligned with belief in your potential. They celebrate the safe wins, the low-risk victories, the things that do not disturb their equilibrium. But your breakthroughs, the ones that make your heart pound and your spirit stretch, feel unacknowledged. Their comfort with the ordinary makes your extraordinary feel inconvenient, even threatening. Slowly, the message seeps in. Your hunger is excessive, your ambition is unnecessary, and your desire to rise above the ordinary is a burden to those who prefer stillness. And yet, the truth waits quietly for recognition. Growth does not occur in familiar waters. Progress requires the discomfort of turbulence, the courage to leap beyond safety, the willingness to feel the sting of being misunderstood. The person who normalizes mediocrity may smile at your dreams, but their approval is not nourishment. It is glue that keeps you in a cage you cannot see. Every time you accept their limits, you teach yourself to be smaller than you are. And the subtle heartbreak is that you begin to believe it is enough when your soul knows the universe is larger, brighter, and wilder than the narrow comfort they offer. Now, take a moment and breathe in this truth. Not everyone who shares your path is meant to walk it with you. Some people are companions for seasons, some for lessons, and some are simply reflections of fears you no longer need to carry. And that is not loss, it is clarity. You are allowed to step away from those who dim your spirit, drain your energy, or convince you that ordinary is enough. Letting go does not make you harsh, it makes you wise. Your life is a collection of choices, many small, some invisible, all shaping the shape of your tomorrow. The people you allow near you determine the gravity of your world, the width of your horizon, the courage of your heart. When you release those who shrink, who take, who settle, space opens for something quieter but stronger, the freedom to grow unburdened, the room to trust your own rhythm, the clarity to honor your own vision. Notice how calm it feels to acknowledge what no longer serves you. There is a stillness in understanding that protecting yourself is not selfish but sacred. There is power in seeing clearly the patterns that once held you back, in recognizing the subtle ways energy leaks away, in naming the invisible weights that have slowed your steps. And in that calm awareness, a quiet resolve begins to form, a resolve that does not shout, but simply chooses its direction without apology. Imagine moving forward unencumbered, walking a path where the people around you lift rather than limit, where support is mutual and belief is abundant. You do not need to burn bridges in anger or regret. Sometimes the strongest step is simply to let the unnecessary drift behind you, like leaves carried away by a steady river. And as the river moves, you feel the space in your chest expand, the air clearer, the weight lighter, and the horizon wider. There is no rush to fill the gaps left behind. The emptiness is not a void, it is potential waiting quietly for your courage, for your attention, for your willingness to inhabit the life that was always yours to claim. In this space, you can dream without fear, give without depleting, grow without compromise. You can exist as the fullest version of yourself, not because others have allowed it, but because you have chosen it. And finally, remember this: clarity is not loud, and strength is not always visible. Often, it is the quiet recognition that some relationships no longer belong in your life, the still decision to honor your own inner. Why, the calm understanding that your future deserves space to breathe. This is the kind of strength that does not seek applause, but quietly changes the course of your days, shaping you into someone unshakable, grounded, and deeply alive. Walk forward with that understanding. Carry the knowledge that every release, every boundary, every act of protection is a reclamation of yourself. Let the right connections find you. Let the unnecessary fall away. And let your life expand in ways that feel true, measured, and fully yours. And in that quiet, unhurried expansion, you discover the peace that comes not from others, but from finally standing in alignment with your own heart.